Hi and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
You're listening to a very special episode of Z Games, Australia's most beloved gaming radio show, with Razor.
Hey.
Miss Candi Payne.
Hi.
Jody Macgregor.
Hello.
And I am Lee. And this episode we will be begging you for money. So the big takeaway for today is we don't have any money. We need money. Please subscribe to the station. Or we will have to, stop, I guess.
Have to ask again.
Yes. Give us money.
Yes. What Lee is trying to get at is that it's Radiothon. As you've no doubt heard if you've been tuned to 4ZZZ. Now, we're here to entice you to subscribe and list Z Games as your favourite program when you do so.
Which, it is, obviously.
Absolutely.
So easy.
And in order for us to further encourage you, we have some prizes of our own, of the gaming-related nature, to give away.
Ooh.
So a little later on, we're going to be unveiling our prize pool.
I love when we unveil a prize pool.
I love it too.
That's great.
Yeah.
This year it is a literal pool filled with prizes.
Yeah.
The winner will get to dive in and pick what they want.
Yes.
I'll look into that.
We also have a review of Pac-Man 256. It's a mobile game that just came out from
Hipster Whale.
Hipster Whale, the makers of Crossy Road.
That's right.
It's very exciting. Lee and I have also been playing King's Quest, the first episode of the sequel to the classic point-and-click adventure game from yesteryear.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be hearing about the history and culture of pinball. That's tying in with our retro theme for this week's episode of Z Games, being the Radiothon theme is...
Old.
Bucket
old.
list.
Bucket list.
It's not old.
Yeah. Very exciting. But let's kick this episode off with the week in gaming news headlines. Mr. Lee.
The first big local announcement is the fact that Pretty Great, a dream team, one could say, of Australian devs, ex-half-prick designer, art lead, and media guy, have announced their first game, Landsliders. We don't know too much about it. There's a YouTube video of it that exists, but the big innovation seems to be that you are moving the earth around underneath your character. They stay where they are. You're dragging the world around beneath them and solving puzzles in that fashion.
Interesting.
Yes. So this is the one that Crossy Road developer Hipster Whale actually contributed, I think, $500,000 toward the funding of this game. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yes.
Is ex-half-brick dev like the Australian equivalent of ex-Bioshock dev?
Maybe, except we've got a bunch of those as well since Irrational was here.
Ex-Bioshock 2 dev is the Australian equivalent.
I guess. Maybe. There certainly are a lot of them these days.
That's what I mean.
Yes. Okay. Good. Indie developer Brianna Wu tweeted an image this morning calling for developers to answer a casting call for a Shark Tank-like TV show for game development. We don't know terribly much about it, just that it's going to be a TV show where if you are in the Americas and you have a game design and a team and you wish to be humiliated on television, you should be on this TV show.
Can I just ask, is it like an actual Shark Tank, a tank with water and sharks, or is it like the Shark Tank show that we have now where you're up against lots of important rich people asking for money to get your project started?
The latter, which makes more sense.
That just sucks.
I know. It would be much better to see game devs
fight for it in a damn Shark Tank.
Yes.
Worth it. No, just me?
Yeah,
just
no.
me.
Unfortunately, no. I think a lot of people who go on Shark Tank, though, would probably prefer to actually encounter real sharks rather than the judging panel.
Yeah.
But
less stress sweat.
A little bit. No one knows, at the very least. Yeah. And finally, a fan has managed to get the original voice actor who plays Ezio Auditore di Firenze from the Assassin's Creed games and Candy's fake boyfriend.
Or that. No, just my favourite character of all time.
The character was recently featured in the Assassin's Creed Chronicles China game, which is an Assassin's Creed spin-off, but they didn't get the original voice actor to do it. They got some chump who was apparently bad.
He growled
Yeah.
a lot,
Did he?
apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what's disappointing about his voice acting. Just lots of growling and mumbling, I think.
Ugh,
Yeah,
that's
not good for that character.
not sexy at all.
Definitely not.
So yeah, a fan just got the guy and asked him to re-record all of the lines in his home studio, and he did. And now, if you'd like, you can download this, and it's been released as a neat thing that fits in with the fiction of the Assassin's Creed games as well. In that this is in the same way that in the Assassin's Creed games, there's a game dev company called Abstergo that releases their own versions of the Assassin's Creed stories. So this is a hacker who has found out what Ezio really sounded like. So this is
Clever.
It's a smear campaign by Abstergo to make Ezio seem less cool. I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Either way, that voice actor, gotta say, I love him even more now. Just imagine just recording in your own home studio to help out. Just, what a guy.
Ezio, if you're listening, please call in and we will provide you with Candi's contact details.
No, that would be silly.
Is that all you got, Lee?
That's all I got.
All right,
thank
great.
you very much, Lee. And now we've all been playing a new mobile game called Pac-Man 256.
Now, Jody, what is the 256 in reference to?
It's a reference to a glitch that occurred in the original Pac-Man arcade game, where if you made it all the way to level 256, a strange bug would occur, and half of the maze you were running around eating pellets in would just become this jumble of weirdly coloured letters and numbers, and you would never be able to progress past that level, no matter how good you were.
So this is Hipster Whale, the creators of Crossy Road, taking their style of endless progress game and applying it here. And so you are playing as Pac-Man being pursued by this wave of glitch nonsense, right?
Yeah, it's like this rolling wall of multicolored artifacts and jumbled stuff that chases you through an endless version of the Pac-Man maze full of pellets and fruits and ghosts, as we all know.
Yes. Razor, you've been playing it.
Yeah.
Where'd you land?
Where did I land? I'm no good at Pac-Man, never have been, probably never will be.
Who are you?
I don't know.
Get out.
Yeah.
See, I'm good. Is that what we're talking about, scores? I was just playing again. So
I think we're
You weren't paying
talking...
attention because you're so good at it.
Yeah.
Well, I just got some kind of beam, and that was new.
Oh, the beam that shoots out of your face?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
big
was
fan of the
awesome. I was
beam.
trying to work
Yeah.
out what it was. Oh, the numbers are coming. The numbers are coming.
So yeah, there are power-ups that you can collect in Pac-Man 256, which is one of the things that's different about it.
Well, you could always pick up the power pill.
Yeah.
You could always
Yeah.
get the power pellets, that's true, which would turn the ghosts blue so that you could eat them. But
you
now
can still do
there's
that here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's more power-ups,
There
more
are
powerful.
more power-ups.
Yeah.
Like
Like-
the laser that shoots out of your face, or the thing that slows down, like freezers, ghosts, and there's a whole bunch of them that you
Yeah.
unlock the more you play.
Yes, as you play and collect dots, you earn credits towards unlocking new power-ups, and then you also earn additional side credits which you use to level up those powers. So you can only take, I think, 4 or 3 power-ups along with you, so you then have to pick the best combination that suits you. At the moment, I've got growth and the bomb and the laser beam, because that laser beam is amazing, particularly for that goddamn pink ghost.
Oh yeah, the pink ghost is a jerk.
Yeah.
I don't catch that one much, Pinky. I
Yeah.
seem to get Inky a lot. That's the little blue one. I don't know why. I don't know why, actually. I find that really strange.
They
He's
all
just
have-
always in the way of my mouth.
They all have very distinct AI patterns in this game. More so,
in
more
the
noticeable
original,
than-
they had slightly different AI, but now there's more of them, and they're all completely different.
Yeah, yeah. Like Pinky just sits and waits.
So does Spunky the grey one.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Spunky's
Spunky's asleep.
Yeah,
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't move too much then.
yeah. But then, like, there's the orange one and the blue one are kind of dumb. The orange one just decides to go away. Clyde is an idiot.
It's just,
Bless him.
I feel like he was always going to be labelled as the idiot when you got Blinky, Pinky, Spunky, Inky, Funky, Clyde.
Yeah.
Like, he was just left on the end there.
Yeah, so listener, if you haven't picked up on it yet, this game is kind of, like, it is charming. It's full of personality
And colour.
and it's really adopted that isometric vector style of art that Crossy Road is famous for, but has some issues, right? Some things that make it difficult to enjoy as a Pac-Man game, which required a lot of was precision. You were going through a maze while things were after you. You had to be able to make quick decisions about where you were going.
You had to time those corner turns
Yeah.
perfectly so that you would actually turn the tiny little corner and go and collect more dots. But yeah, this one, it's a little slow, and then I find my poor little Pac-Man just keeps doing the left and right thing because I'm trying to get him to move back, and then it catches up a split second later, and then he goes the other direction again, and then I just sit there going left and right, like a dog trying to chase his tail, and I get nowhere, and then the numbers turn up, and that's the end of it. So that's a shame for me.
Yeah. So it has, you flick to determine which direction you're going to go in, but because the whole thing has an isometric view, Ray, you were saying you weren't even sure whether you had to flick in the direction of the board or in the actual cardinal directions.
Well, because it's not centered, like you said, it's isometric. I wasn't sure if I pushed up, if I wanted to go up, or if I had to push in the slightly off to the off-center direction that I was actually going in. And I'm still not sure what I should be pushing. And
that's a good point.
A few times I was like, okay, that cost me my life.
Yeah. I mean, the whole purpose of the game is that you want to get an uninterrupted string of dots that you've picked up, pellets along the way. And, there are gaps and there are optimal ways through this endless maze. And far too often I've been on a really hot streak, and then Pac-Man's just gone in the different direction to the one that I was hoping that he would go in, when I asked him to go in a direction, and ruined my score.
I know.
Go, Pac-Man.
Yeah, because it really should be about your reflexes and the ghosts.
Yeah.
And when you introduce like lag or mistakes into that, it's not really fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the laser certainly helps even the playing field, as lasers often do.
I find when I have the laser shooting out of my face, though, I get cocky and I just chase ghosts down, and then it runs out.
That's what I just did.
Right before I run into the dumb blue ghost.
Yeah, but I died. That's the classic Pac-Man story, though, isn't it? Being cocky.
The beam was shooting out of my face, and then I got eaten by a ghost.
Always think you can go faster.
Yep.
Yeah. My score's okay.
Okay.
1,169.
That's all right.
I thought that was pretty damn good.
No,
my highest
I'm sure it's better than mine. I don't even know
chain.
what my highest score is because I find myself not wanting to play long enough.
My chain of dots is 69, but I've eaten 714 in total.
Nice.
Yeah.
There is controller support for the game, so if you have a Bluetooth controller, you can use it, and I think most of the problems we've been talking about with the control scheme might be alleviated there.
Yeah.
But I don't know anyone who uses a Bluetooth
No, I've never even
controller
seen
for mobile.
No, I'm just sitting here using it on my phone in quiet times, not around the office. That's
the bathroom.
Wrong. But the bathroom. No, that's even more wrong.
So it is a free-to-play game from both the App Store and the Google Play Store. But if you love the game and you don't want to be bound by the credit system, you can purchase the game outright for around $9.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There are credits which regenerate. I'm a massive fan of Pac-Man and will just keep playing it forever, except this is you cannot play Pac-Man anymore. Go away, Lee. Go do something else.
But the weird thing is, you can, even if you have credits to spend, you can only spend one when you die to pick up where you left off and continue playing.
Yeah.
No matter how many credits you have, if you die that second time, you still get booted back to the starting screen and have to watch the intro and listen to the music and then tap your way into the game again, which I find really off-putting. I like to die and then go straight back into the game. That's what
I also don't see
makes
the
me
point
keep
of that.
playing.
Yeah, I don't see the point of that, because if it's keeping your score and you're there as it's reminding you of all the great achievements you've got, why then go right back to the start and be shown how to swipe the screen again? And I don't know. I don't see the point.
I think that's just amateur hour in mobile design. Maybe that's the thing. I want to get right back into playing, and it's putting weird roadblocks in the way. Yeah. I wish I loved this as much as I love Crossy Road, because I love Crossy Road. When I close my eyes, I see Crossy Road.
That's
and
weird.
The idea of combining that with Pac-Man is like two favorite flavors coming together, and yet somehow
Missed the mark.
Yeah. The things that are great about Crossy Road have been applied here in a way that don't always necessarily make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Gotcha.
We've been talking about Pac-Man 256, which is a mobile game available now. 1975. It was the year Triple Z first went to air as Australia's first FM community radio station. The first song broadcast was Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. 1975 also marks the release of Tommy, the film based on The Who's rock opera of the same name, that told the story of a deaf, mute and blind kid who played a mean pinball. Before Space Invaders arrived in 1978 and brought with it the golden age of arcade gaming, pinball was the amusement of choice for many a youngster. Pinball actually has its origins in a 19th century game called Bagatelle, which is itself derived from billiards. Last weekend, I sat down with Z announcer Riff Randall and former Triple Z host Shell McIntyre at the Brisbane Masters IFPA Pinball Tournament for a chat about the history and culture of pinball.
Bagatelle was around in the early 19th century, and then improvements in Bagatelle came along, which is early pinball machines basically, which meant you'd actually have pins, a tilted thing where you'd shoot the ball up, but there were no flippers on it. Flippers came along in 1947.
Okay.
That's when the original sort of pinball machine was a Humpty Dumpty Gottlieb machine where they actually put flippers on the side of improvements of Bagatelle, and that's kind of modern pinball as we know it. Without the flippers, it was pretty much just a matter of luck, of just using the plunger to get the silver ball to come down and to basically wind up in pins. And see, guys used to move the machines about because that then could alter where the ball went, which is where the whole tilt feature came into play. So pinball itself was quite popular in the 30s in the Great Depression, but of course once World War II came along, all the manufacturers had to sort of stop and make armaments and all sort of jazz. Because of course there were German manufacturers of pinball machines as well, I believe Bally is. So it affected the American manufacturers and the German manufacturers. But after post-World War II, it became popular again because they could go back to making pinball machines. Yeah, and 1947, of course, being the year that basically they put the flippers on, that's a massive improvement. That's like light years in the evolution of the game. In about 1976 was when they first started using microchips and circuit boards in pinball. Prior to that, they were all electromechanical, so it's like digital versus analog. And what had happened is that because it was analog previously, the machine couldn't keep up with the amount of, because you had a lot of more bumper flippers and slingshots and all that sort of jazz. So the actual scoring couldn't keep up with what was going on on the playboard. So when they brought out digital scoring, that could easily keep a track of everything that was happening on the playboard. Prior to that, in 1973, Pong was introduced, and that was the first sort of commercial video game. And so it contributed to that mid to late 70s era of basically video games just taking over the world, and a bit of starting the demise for the original sort of 70s pinball gaming. So it helped pinball gaming in the one sense, and this other hand, it also contributed to its demise. In 84 was when a lot of the pinball manufacturers kind of just closed their doors. I think Space Invaders was introduced about 1977, and that was a massive thing. By 1979, they'd put out Player One with the single Space Invaders and all that sort of stuff. Forced a national coin shortage in Japan, all that sort of jazz. So it was quite a large impact on, the pinball gaming.
It was a big impact on me, actually, because I remember when the local kind of, I think it was a fish and chip shop, had pinball machines for ages, and then suddenly the pinball machines were gone. It was a damn Space Invaders machine. And, what could we do? That was just about it in town, really, at the time.
But a lot of places also still had a pinball machine and an arcade machine sort of thing. And also in the early 80s, home consoles had been invented as well. So the Atari 2600 was a massive thing. It was kind of like the internet nowadays. Kids can either go out and see bands, or they can stay at home and watch it on their computers. And so I think with gaming, what had happened, pinball to Space Invaders to then like the home console, I think was what really did do damage to both pinball and arcade games as such, and arcades themselves. I remember being here in Brisbane, and that was because I was born in 73, so like when I was about 6 or 7, I was obsessed with video games. It was just, you couldn't do it enough to get to the local store and get your 20-cent pieces. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get an Atari 2600 as a kid, and that was big. That was big time, like you'd invite your mates over, and it was on for young and old. But I still played arcade games as well at the same time. So, and I do know that like even in the mid to late 80s in Brisbane itself, there were still a couple of good Time Zone was still around. All the games were 20 cents.
A lot of the nightclubs had pinball machines. Sight down the valley had like 3 machines going.
Yeah, and you know what? That's because pokies weren't introduced. Pokies were outlawed until 1992 in Brisbane. So I assume that probably contributed to all the venues having pinball and arcade machines once pokies were introduced, because of course you make a shitload more money off poker machines.
But also two things were stepping up, like clubs were trying to introduce more things for people to play with. It was the start of that era of let's have everything.
Can I ask each of you guys which particular machines you have the fondest memories of?
Oh man, see, I sort of dipped into pinball maybe 3 times. Like in the 70s, I was pretty young, getting busted at the corner store as a little girl, playing pinball with the big blokes, you know, and I was just there for the game. Yeah, back at that time, Mata Hari, Lost World, it was, you know, they were great machines to play. I still like to play those machines. And then, you know, through the 90s, clubbing was great in Brisbane. A lot of machines around. Fishtails was great. I used to play mousing around.
Fishtails would be mine, you mentioned. When I left Brisbane, went up in Sydney in the mid to late 90s, and we used to drink at the Excelsior, which is where Radio Birdman played their first gig. And there was a machine there called Fishtails, and that fucking machine rules.
What do you guys think it is about the game of pinball that has contributed to its enduring legacy?
It's the classic man versus machine, but when you're playing video games, there's a set pattern. When you're playing Galaga or Space Invaders, it's always a set pattern. With pinball, anything could happen. You can have you can have your best game on one machine, a machine that you love, and then you can have your worst game. It's just it's completely unpredictable, and there's an element of skill, there's an element of luck. I don't know. It's kind of got everything.
Culturally speaking, has there ever been a negative association with people who play pinball?
Oh, hell yeah. Greasers and things like that, you know, hanging around shops, drinking their sodas or whatever. They knew how to party. You know, so yeah, I think there was that element, especially like I know that as a young girl, my parents really didn't even let me go to those places. Like even at Maroochydore, I used to have to sneak in there. And I'd get busted there too, you know, so, you know, really I didn't get in that much trouble, so I figured they must have realised that I was into it and I was going to keep doing it, so. But yeah, they were pretty seedy places, you know, delinquents hanging around, you know. That's what they say about pinball, delinquent youth.
The tilting aspect. Is that frowned upon, or was it once acceptable to tilt? What's the deal there?
It depends on the player. I know that the real good players, they do like to tilt a lot and do get a lot out of their tilting.
I like to tilt, but I think there's a lot in pinball where you're actually kind of nudging the machine to keep the ball in play because that's the aim of the game, you know. So, and as a result of that nudging and pushing and, you know, trying to save balls, yeah, you can tilt. And you can adjust the tilt settings, you know. So some people will take them off, go hard, you know.
Yeah.
Ray and Lee, you guys have both been playing a new game in the King's Quest series, which it's been a while, right? The original point-and-click King's Quest games. I remember playing a couple of those back in the 1990s.
Yeah, and they're older than that by far as well.
Yeah.
The original one was basically a demo for a text parser that kind of had a video game in it, which is why it wasn't a very good video game, but it was okay as a text parser, provided that you didn't want to have to use it to like defeat a dragon or anything, because then you would never figure out the combination of commands to do that. This one has nothing to do with text parsers, though. This is a modern reimagining of the story.
It's not a direct sequel?
No. It's this is a reimagining of the original series as a whole. Each episode is going to be told in between the original classic 9 games. I believe there were 9.
So you're not even a king yet. Or Graham's not a king yet. He's just some dude.
That's right. Well, there's a framing sequence where you are, in fact, old King Graham, as played by beloved Christopher Lloyd, is telling his granddaughter the story of how he became a knight in the first place before he became king of the kingdom of Daventry. And so while you're doing stuff, Christopher Lloyd will be narrating over the top, and sometimes he'll be having conversations with his granddaughter about the particular approach that he's taken to solving the puzzles.
So the setup's kind of like The Princess Bride?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually, except with the ages reversed of the participants.
And there's even a voice actor from The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah. The little tiny guy who does the poison thing.
Yeah.
And there's some allusions to his character in the first episode. So this one plays out a little bit like a combination of what we think of the adventure game now, like the Telltale-style Walking Dead games, but with more of the walking around, looking at stuff and picking up things that you would have had in a more traditional adventure game. Ray, how did you find it?
I really like the take on it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a bunch of people out there that play the Telltale games that are out now and are a bit disappointed that they've kind of discarded the entire point-and-click aspect of it to focus on more of a narrative-driven experience. And I think that those people will find something to enjoy here. It's about as well as you can do the point-and-click adventure in a modern setting, I feel.
Yeah.
It is frustrating in some parts because you need the right item to put in the right keyhole, etc., etc., but largely it works very well.
Yeah, I find that the puzzles themselves are pretty sensible. It's just that you often don't get enough direction in the middle of the game as to whether you're doing the right thing or even what you should be doing. So once you know what you should be doing, it makes sense what things you need to do and how you need to track those bits down. But when it opens up after the first two chapters are quite a linear affair, and then it opens up and gets quite expansive. You've got a lot of territory that you can traverse. It's good in a way because, as a counter argument to the way that, say, something like A Wolf Among Us, some of the middle chapters to that were like a sequence of conversations and cutscenes, and then 2 hours of that and you were done with the game. This is big and lets you take your time, and you can just stroll around a very lovely looking place trying to solve puzzles.
Cool.
And it looks amazing as well.
Yeah.
The animation, the art style, they've really spared no expense here. And it's just colourful, like the world hits you. It's just a beautiful place that you just want to spend time.
Yeah, the artists have taken a kind of an ink and paint art style, so you do get to see a lot of like line work in the textures of things. It works on the characters really, really well. Some of the landscapes, they're a bit lo-fi, but yeah, the animations you were saying are a real highlight here. The characters in particular, when they're talking to you, their idle animations, just the incidental things that they do, they're just so alive. And again, seemingly is a counterpoint to the Telltale games, which really have been not spending as much of their money on animating their characters as maybe they could. They have a lot of money. Telltale, make your guys move around a bit. Like, these things are just lively and fantastic. Sometimes it looks like an animated film. It's just really nice.
I also really appreciated the mini-games along the way. It's not like you settle into a rhythm or a formula of a point-and-click adventure. Like, all of a sudden you'll be in a race, or there'll be a chess-like game for you to do, or there'll be some sort of tiny activity to divert your attention from the main quest, and they're all varied and quite fun.
Yeah, and they all make sense in the context as well. There are QuickTime events, but they're pretty sparse, and they actually make sense in the context of what you're doing as well, which is so rare. Like, it's a QuickTime event that I don't hate because the commands are sensible and like they're easy to solve.
Yeah.
Amazing. 1,000 thumbs up.
I'm glad the developers seem to have learned this lesson. I was just playing the latest episode of Tales from the Borderlands the other night, and it also has like amazing QuickTime events where the controls, like all the inputs make sense, and it's like you've been doing these things for about 5 years, maybe 10 years. You finally figured them out. Well done, video games.
Yeah. What do you think of Christopher Lloyd?
I love Christopher Lloyd. I'm glad to see him in a video game. It's so good.
You wish he was your granddad?
I do.
Yeah?
With respect to my real granddad. It's great. I mean, I haven't heard of... What has Christopher Lloyd done recently?
He did the Back to the Future video game.
Okay.
For Telltale.
Yeah, he doesn't do much, and it's really cool to see him here. Yeah, if you're a Christopher Lloyd fan, this is a joy as well, because he's in a really... he's in a sort of grandfatherly role, and he's telling you a story, and it feels really good, especially if you're a Christopher Lloyd fan like me.
Or if you actually are Christopher Lloyd's grandchild and you've never been in this situation before.
Yeah, and the rest of the voice cast, there's a few biggish names in there as well, like the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants has a kind of little cameo as a merchant.
Tom Kenny is in everything.
Yeah.
Is it obvious?
Yeah, it's
Like,
Tom Kenny.
Sound like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that helps drive the story through. I really appreciated it. So that's the first episode of 5 that are coming out, Lee?
Yeah, and if you get the bundle, there's an epilogue as well that will be made available at some point.
Yeah, so what we do with these episodic games is we'll review the first one as we have just then, and we'll come back at the conclusion of the series to give you guys our closing remarks there.
But so far, really pleased with this. Like, surprisingly impressed with what they're doing, and I feel like they're carving out their own space within the modern adventure game genre.
Yeah, and it was a bit lengthier than I thought too, a bit meatier.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of hours in, I was like, surely this is it, right? But no, it kept going.
Hours.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you could probably do this in, 7 hours would be, that's probably a slow go.
Really?
But there's so much stuff in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, actually, that really surprised me. I didn't think you would say that.
Yeah. So I don't think you'll be disappointed if whether you're a newcomer or a returning fan of the King's Quest series. I think this will hit all the right notes for you. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.